So not only are you competing when you're uploading a design onto Redbubble or Teepublic or wherever the POD site is, not only are you competing with those sites, but you're competing with the general internet as well. Let me see what we've got here for Rolling Stones t-shirts. If I go shopping, oh my goodness, look at this. Boom, 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 boom. Ugh, I got to compete with the Rolling Stones? Jeez, that's frustrating. How about U2 t-shirts? Bono himself has a U2 t-shirt. Geez, I'm supposed to compete with him? Bunch of t-shirts here. Ugh, that's frustrating. What's the most popular TV show these days? I don't know. Remember in the old days, remember Seinfeld? Remember that TV show, pretty popular TV show? Well, look at this. Boom, 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 boom. Old Navy's got Seinfeld t-shirts. Ugh. How am I supposed to compete with these major chains, with these major stores? Well, that can be a bit frustrating. So I'm going to show you a tip, trick, a strategy, because right now you're thinking life's like this. This is you, tumbleweed in the desert. Hello, is anybody going to buy my shirt? I'm trying to sell my shirt. Is anybody going to buy it? And across the big wall is the big pile of money where the trademarked shirts are all sitting. Rolling Stones, Nirvana, Karate Kid, Breaking Bad. It's like, oh, if there was only a way that I could somehow be part of this club. Well, the good news is there is a way, and it's not a scheme, it's not illegal, it's not unethical, it's smart. Now, it's got some risks, it's got some research, it's not easy, but this is what I would like to propose. Here's your sphere of influence, and here's the trademarked intellectual properties. Things like the Rolling Stones, Karate Kid, Breaking Bad, movies. What's this? The circles overlap? There's this little sliver here in the middle where you can take advantage of trademarked trends. And I'm not talking about just ripping off the Rolling Stones logo and slapping it on a t-shirt. So throw that away. And I know somebody's going to watch the first 30 seconds of this video and they're going to give it a thumbs down and say, man, you're just promoting copying. I'm not promoting copying anything. I've got a couple tips and tricks and a really cool strategy that you can use and people are using on Redbubble, Teepublic, Etsy, Merch by Amazon that will help you make sales by taking advantage of trademarked intellectual properties without infringing on them in a legal sense. So does that sound interesting? I hope so, because this is a huge strategy that a lot of people use to make sales in the POD world. So if you're interested, I've got a couple tips, a couple tricks, and right at the end of the video, I've got an example that sounds great, but actually isn't. So I want to make sure that you stay till the end of the video to watch that, because I've got a couple pitfalls for this strategy as well. It's not all just free money raining down from the sky. You're going to have to do some work, you're going to have to do some research, and there's a couple pitfalls. So stay tuned and let's go. Hey there everybody, hope all is well. Let's jump into how to legally exploit trademarked trends here, and I'm talking about Redbubble, Teepublic, Merch by Amazon. Now I think this is going to be a controversial video. There's going to be people that are going to hear something different than what I'm saying, so I want to be very clear out of the gates. There is a legitimate wall between us, I'll put myself over here with the tumbleweed crowd like you and me, and people that own legitimate trademarks to things like U2, the Rolling Stones, Netflix shows, movies, music. I am not suggesting that you rip off these designs. I'm not suggesting that you steal these designs. I am not suggesting that you use something to pretend that you're part of that crowd. Okay, so I want to be very clear about that before we jump in. Okay, now that having been said, the strategy here, and I'm going to get into some examples right away because I don't want to talk and talk and talk. I want to show you guys some real examples of how you can take advantage of the ideas of the trademarked intellectual properties, but without actually using the trademarked properties. So I got a bunch of examples. All right, so let's go. Okay, so the first one, and I'm just going to Wikipedia here to pull up this information. There's a very famous song that came out in the 1970s called Kung Fu Fighting. And if you can go on YouTube and just look it up. It basically goes, everybody was Kung Fu fighting. It's a pretty popular song, right? And that's all the singing I'm going to do in this video, I promise you. So Kung Fu Fighting was a pretty famous disco song, all right? And it's even part of the popular culture today. Even though it's like 40 years old, everybody's heard of the song. Everybody's aware of the phrase, everybody was Kung Fu fighting. It's a very popular song. Okay, you can see here, it says here in the article, this is on Wikipedia, Kung Fu Fighting was rated number 100 in the 100 greatest one-hit wonders. So it's like one of the top 100 one-hit wonders of all time. So it's a very popular song. So how do you take advantage of this? So if you want to get banned from Redbubble or Teepublic, you could just take this album cover and just slap that onto a t-shirt and go, there you go. I am not suggesting that. That's the worst thing you can do. But what I am suggesting is everyone knows this phrase, Kung Fu fighting. Okay, or at least it's pretty popular, right? I mean, if you're 4 years old, you might not know it, but if you're a regular functioning adult out in society that watches movies and TV shows, the idea is you will be aware of this phrase. All right, so you can take advantage of this. So here's an example on Redbubble. When I search for Kung Fu fighting, the top results are not trademarked. It says here, surely not everybody was Kung Fu fighting. Surely not everybody was Kung Fu fighting. Surely not. Surely, there's a bunch in here, right? It's funny because everyone's aware of the song, but they're not mentioning the song. So it's like an inside joke. That's why these are like trendy hipster shirts, because they're making fun of something without referencing it. Okay, so the idea is you see the shirt and you go, oh, I get it. The song says everybody was Kung Fu fighting, but surely not everybody was Kung Fu. Got it, okay. Witty, haha, move on with your life. So that's why people buy this shirt, and it's a very popular shirt. Now you can see there's 6,200 results. These are at the top of the list. They're on the very first page. I did not search for surely not everybody was Kung Fu fighting. That's not what I searched for. I searched for Kung Fu fighting. I searched for the trademarked song, and whether it's trademarked or copyrighted or it's intellectual property, I'm not going to get into that. I know that people sometimes get hung up on, is it trademarked? Is it copyrighted? Well, what's the laws in this country? What's the laws in that country? I think we can all agree Kung Fu Fighting was a very popular song in the 1970s, and therefore it is an intellectual property of someone somewhere. That we can all agree on. Okay, unless it's specifically released into the public domain, which it's not, as far as I know, then we need to skirt around it. We need to bump up against the wall, but not cross over the wall. So this is an example of where you can take advantage of something where somebody would buy this shirt because it's hip, it's cool, it's on the fringe of the trademarked design. Okay, that's one example. And I've got a whole bunch of these examples. And again, these are just examples. So the idea here is you would think, I live in this country or that country. What are popular phrases? What are popular shows? What are popular movies in my area of the world? Because you're an expert, you're watching those shows. So you'd think about that. So if you're not a Kung Fu fighting fan, and most of us are not, this would probably not speak to you, but it would speak to somebody, and that's the important part. Here's another one. Now, if you were around in the 1990s, I'm showing my age here a little bit, but there's a guy here called Sir Mix-a-Lot, and he came out with a song called Baby Got Back, all right? And the reason this song, or one of the reasons this song is so popular, is if we go to the lyrics here. So this is from 1992. It's a hip-hop song written by Sir Mix-a-Lot, okay? Here's the lyrics for Baby Got Back. And you will see right down at the bottom the phrase. He says here, I like big butts and I cannot lie, all right? That is a huge phrase out in the world. And the reason it's a phrase that's so big is because you can use it for almost anything. You can say, I like big something and I cannot lie. So you're not infringing on this trademark. You're not just uploading a picture of Sir Mix-a-Lot, because I would not recommend that, because that's trademarked. I would not recommend using the phrase baby got back. I would not say I like big butts. I would not touch any of this. Pardon the pun. But what I would do, I go onto Redbubble, I searched for I like big butts, all right? A little embarrassing. I'm sure my internet search history is going to show that I was searching for I like big butts. And it comes up with 454 results. But look at the ones that are at the top here. I like pig butts, and I cannot lie. Huh. I like big bucks, and I cannot lie. There's a hunting shirt. See, if I was a hunter, and I'm not, but let's pretend I was, this would be funny to me, because I'm like, oh, I get it. We're mixing genres here. We're mixing the rap genre from the 1990s, I like big butts, but I'm a hunter and I'm shooting elk or deer or whatever, so I like big bucks, and I cannot lie. It's a play on words. This one over here, it's hard to read. It's a little bit tiny. It says, I like Bigfoots, and I cannot lie. I like Bigfoots, and I cannot lie. All right, I sort of did lie because I said I wasn't going to sing anymore, but that was rapping. That was rapping. It's not exactly the same. Here's one that says, on the right-hand side, it says, I like big buns, and I cannot lie. Now, it's hard to see, but if you were a baker, for example, if you were like cooking and you had, say, an apron or a shirt, if you were like, hey, grandma, I like big buns and I cannot lie, that's hilarious, especially if your grandma has no idea what it means. Here, grandma, she wears a shirt, she goes, I do like big buns, and everyone laughs. Good grief. Here's one on the left-hand side. I like big cats, and I cannot lie. They're taking advantage of the song without saying the actual phrase. Now, it's a gray area. Here's one right here where the sticker says, I like big butts. Well, that's risky. I would definitely research that to see if that was trademarked, because if it's a trademarked saying, and it may or may not have anything to do with the song. See, if something gets popular enough, somebody goes, for $50, I can trademark this. So that's why I would not just recommend just instantly, just throwing up song lyrics. I would recommend doing some research, and I'll show you that near the end of the video on how to do that. Here's a witty one. Trust people who like big butts. They cannot lie. See, this is hilarious because the person is playing on the idea that you're saying, I like big butts, and they're saying, trust people who say that. So they're not saying it, they're talking about it. This is a hipster shirt. Here's one, I like big books, and I cannot lie. So you get the idea, right? You would take the Sir Mix-a-Lot saying, the very famous phrase, one of the most famous phrases of the 1990s, and you would apply it to other things. So you're butting up against that wall of trademark infringement, but you're not crossing over it, because it's not, somebody has not trademarked, I like pig butts. I mean, if they have, bless their hearts. I got to be honest, I haven't done the research. Maybe they have, okay? I like big cats, and I cannot lie. You'll notice what's similar with all of them. It says cannot lie, and I cannot lie, and I cannot lie, and I cannot lie. They cannot lie. That's the joke. So whatever you come up with, you can tag it with I like big butts. It's 454. That's a small niche, man. And especially if somebody likes coffee, if somebody likes cats, sloths, dogs, snakes, whatever city you're in, there's a huge potential just in this area. Now, I'm not suggesting you're going to sell millions of these, but you'll certainly sell something someday, because someone's going to look at it and go, I was around in the 1990s. That's hilarious. And they'll move on. All right, next example. There was a movie that came out in 1993 called The Sandlot. Okay, and if you're ever researching a movie, or if you're ever just looking on Wikipedia, and if you're ever just reading through something, and I do this all the time, I'll watch a movie on Netflix and then I'll look it up on Wikipedia, and I'll just read about it, who was in it, or what was the backstory. As soon as you see this phrase, cult film, your eyes should light up like my cats when I give them catnip. Cult film is translation, it's cool to like this film. There are things inside the film that you can exploit for money. That's the idea behind cult film. When I see the word cult film, I go ding, ding, ding. This is potential. And I'll give you an example. In the movie The Sandlot, which is not a super popular film, it's not Titanic, for example, it's not a hugely popular film, there is a phrase in the movie where one of the characters says, "You're killing me, Smalls." And Smalls is one of the characters in the movie. You're killing me, Smalls. That's the phrase. So again, I would search to see if it's trademarked first, and I'll show you how to do that near the end of the video. But here's another one. You're Killing Me Smalls over on the bottom right. Okay, You're Killing Me Smalls. So you're not referencing the Sandlot. Now, I don't like the idea of having the picture of the person in here, one of the actors. That to me, that would be a fail. Like that to me would be a possible trademark infringement, because you don't have the rights to use that photograph. Chances are, this is a huge trademark violation, because there's no way this film is in the public domain, and this is just a straight off rip off of the movie poster. I would not recommend that. This is the gray area. Is that the picture of this? Probably. I don't particularly like this. I like this one the best out of these designs, because it just says You're Killing Me Smalls. Everyone knows what it means. It's obviously a baseball reference because the stitches. This is witty. So it's funny. The very things that I'm talking about in this video, using the person's face, it makes it wittier and more hipster if you don't use the person's face, if you don't reference the movie. This is offhanded. This is subversive. This is a bit cheeky and naughty. You read that on a t-shirt and you go, ha, I get it. It's an inside joke. And that's what you're striving for with these, is you and the person wearing it share something that not the rest of the world shares. That's why it's popular. So you can connect on a tribal level with a stranger and go, ha, wink, wink, got it. That's the whole idea behind a hipster shirt. Here's another one. You play ball like a girl. You're Killing Me Smalls. These are all on Redbubble. Okay. You're Killing Me Smalls. Here's a really nice one, that decal with the baseball, but it's just a complete silhouette. I don't really like the font, if I'm being honest, but anyway, that's not the point of this video. But my point here is, I would recommend you just use text, or you use a silhouette. Don't use the actual trademarked images. I can't stress that enough. Do not use the trademarked images. And don't use the trademarked names. You're just using phrases around the trademarked images. Let's go to the next one. Hello. If anybody was around in the 1990s, obviously you've heard of the band Nirvana. They were huge, probably the biggest band in the early 90s. Kurt Cobain, Chris Novoselic, Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl went on to form the Foo Fighters. So I mean, if you've heard of the Foo Fighters, he's got his roots in this band Nirvana. And so Nirvana was around in the early 90s. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful if we just stole a Nirvana logo and slapped it on a t-shirt? Well, I would not recommend that. But what you could do is you can look up if certain phrases related to the band are trademarked. Here's an example. And by the way, these are just examples. I have not done the extensive research on these. So if you see an example that happens to be trademarked, great. I am not suggesting that you just rip off everybody's designs that I'm showing you in this video. I am suggesting you do your own research and you decide, oh, that's a niche I can exploit. So for Nirvana, well, what's up with Nirvana? Here's one. Oh, well, whatever, never mind. Okay, it's not, as far as I know, it's not trademarked. It's a saying. It's lyrics from a song. It's got nothing visually to do with Nirvana. It doesn't use the logo. It doesn't use the font. It doesn't use any pictures. So that is a potential opportunity. You could jump in and go, huh, what other sayings, what other phrases are there regarding the band, or any band? There's thousands of bands out there. Here's one. Grunge 1991 Seattle. Well, anybody looking at that shirt who's been around in the 1990s knows what this is referencing. Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, could be Nirvana. There's a lot of different grunge bands in the 1990s. Now, it's a hipster shirt. I mean, I don't think that people in the 1990s were walking around with with the word grunge on them, right? Obviously, we're looking back on it. But again, this is on Redbubble right now. It's an opportunity to take advantage of the niche without stepping into the trademarked zone. Here are 4 artists, musicians that passed away. So we've got Kurt Cobain, who was the lead singer of Nirvana. We've got Lane Staley, who was the lead singer of Alice in Chains, very big popular band in the 1990s. Scott Weiland, who was the lead singer of Stone Temple Pilots. I got to see them in concert shortly before he passed away. It was amazing. I loved it. And Chris Cornell, who was in a band called Soundgarden and later Audio Slave. So these are four very, very famous and very talented musicians who unfortunately have all passed away. So what do you do with Kurt, Lane, Scott, and Chris? Well, you don't use their pictures. You don't use their last names. You don't use anything to tie them together to the trademarked images. But what you could do is you have on Redbubble, there's a Grunge List Classic t-shirt, and it's just 4 people's names. Now, if you were a lawyer, you could make a case. Well, obviously they're referring to Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley, Scott Weiland, and Chris Cornell. But boy, could you prove it? Yeah, that's tough, man. Because what if I've just got 4 buddies on my volleyball team and they all happen to be named Kurt, Lane, Scott, and Chris? That's what I meant, Your Honor. So again, I know some people are going to think this is a bit sleazy, and hey, to each their own. It's one possible strategy that you could use. Another popular one is Kurt and Courtney. So Courtney Love, of course, was Kurt Cobain's wife. And so it's just Kurt and Courtney. Now, again, I would suggest you check these for trademarks first. I'm not just saying start writing down everybody's name and every popular phrase in existence, because many of them are trademarked. And I'm going to have a pretty good example here at the end. But this is an example of where you could try. You could try this genre and you could do some research. And if you don't find a trademark for it, go ahead. You're taking advantage of the genre without stepping into the trademarked zone. Let's pick another really popular trademarked show. So I'm certainly showing my age here, as most of my references are from the 90s. But again, that's what I know. You know, I've been a professional writer for 20 years, and one of the first rules of writing is write about what you know. It's the same thing as a designer. It's the same thing as an artist. Design about what you know. Okay, well, I know Seinfeld. I've seen every episode multiple times. It's on reruns. It's still part of the popular culture, and it's one of the most famous TV shows of all time. Seinfeld, of course, stars Jerry Seinfeld, and there's his wacky friend George Costanza, Elaine, and nutty neighbor Kramer. So how do we take advantage of this? Well, again, I'm not suggesting we use the pictures. I'm not suggesting we use the logos, but what could we do? Because this show is chock full of witty sayings, and the reason they connected with the audience is because everyone was aware of at least the concepts behind them. So even though this show has not been on the air for a long time, it's still very popular. So here's an example on Redbubble. These pretzels are making me thirsty. Now, this is not a great design, if I'm being perfectly honest. It's a picture of a pretzel and some font, and it looks a little bit amateurish. However, that just opens up the door that maybe you could make a better design. This is sitting on Redbubble right now. These pretzels are making me thirsty. And of course, that's the phrase that Elaine used in one of the popular episodes where she says, these pretzels are making me thirsty. So if you've never seen the show, you're looking at this shirt going, really? It's a pretzel? But if you've seen the show, the love you have for the show is transformed onto the shirt. So if you're out at the mall and you see this shirt, you go, oh, these pretzels are making me thirsty. That's hilarious. Because you're not thinking of the shirt. You're thinking of the TV show. So you're taking advantage of the trademarked intellectual property of the Seinfeld TV show without actually delving into the world. Let's take a look at another Seinfeld example. Again, if you've never seen Seinfeld, this won't mean anything. But if you've seen the Seinfeld show, everyone who's seen the show smiles now looking at Art Vandelay because George Costanza, one of the characters on the show, made up a completely fictitious career that he was an importer-exporter, which meant nothing. And so this is the idea now. You create a sticker, Art Vandelay, importer-exporter. Or you have it on a t-shirt or you have it on whatever. So that's another example. Again, it's not necessarily trademarked. I would go check, mind you. But it could be an opportunity to take advantage of a Seinfeldism without delving into the world of trademark. Here's another one. Elaine had a romantic liaison with someone and she said she yada yada yada. And again, if you've never seen the show, it doesn't really resonate. But if you've seen it, all it is 3 words in regular font on a relatively white background. That's it. So this has nothing to do with Seinfeld, or does it? Because if you've seen the show, of course, you know exactly what it means. It's a very witty design. Again, I would go in and check and make sure this is not trademarked, but it's certainly an opportunity. Here's one. George is getting upset. The character George Costanza would refer to himself in the third person once in a while, and it was hilarious. Of course, I love the show. And so George is getting upset would just be a phrase from the show. Now, again, is this trademarked? I don't think so, but you'd want to go double check first, right? So George is getting upset, another great example. Here's another one. Serenity Now. This was not a particularly popular phrase until the show came out. And then, of course, the reason is the person who's saying it, I believe it was George's parents, George's dad, of course, was one of the least serene people on the planet. So when he's screaming Serenity Now, it's a sarcastic hipster shirt. Because if you've seen the show, you know how absurd it is. So this is why it's funny, and this is why people buy the shirt. They don't really believe in Serenity Now. They're believing in the absurdity of it as portrayed on the show. So this is a great example. Again, there's nothing in the design to indicate it's Seinfeld. There's not Seinfeld font. There's no picture of George's dad. It's just a general picture with the words Serenity Now, taking advantage of the trademarked opportunity, but not crossing over that line. And of course, this one always cracks me up. When Elaine was in the bathroom on Seinfeld, someone asked her if she had a square to spare, and they started talking about having squares to spare, meaning toilet paper. So again, this is like one of the world's worst illustrations. It's not particularly well drawn. And you can see here it says, I don't have a square to spare. Could you do better? Maybe, I don't know. But it's certainly an opportunity. It has nothing to do at first glance with Seinfeld, but if you've seen the show, it means something to you. Now I'm going to pick another example of a really famous movie from the 1980s. And of course, as soon as I show you this picture, most of us immediately know what this is. This is Karate Kid from the 1980s. And there's a really popular show on Netflix right now called Cobra Kai. In fact, if I go to Redbubble, one of the top trending shirts right now is Eagle Fang Karate, which is a dojo that's coming out of that show, Cobra Kai, which is on Netflix. So I am not suggesting ripping off Cobra Kai. I'm not suggesting using the logo. I'm not suggesting using any words or pictures that are right from the movies or from the TV shows. However, here's an opportunity. There's a very famous scene at the end of the movie where Daniel LaRusso, the hero, is fighting Johnny Lawrence, the villain, and Daniel's got an injury. So this guy, the bad guy, Johnny Lawrence, goes over to his sensei, and the sensei says, sweep the leg. And of course, this Kreese, who's the bad guy here, he's the ultimate villain because he's saying take advantage of the kid's injury in order to win at any cost. And here we've got Johnny, the young karate fighter, and the evil villain sensei, sweep the leg. That's become a huge phrase over the years, sweep the leg. Now here's the example where you got to watch out. This is the pitfall that I was talking about at the start of the video. So you may know about this already. So you may think, sweep the leg, let's do it. So we go on to Redbubble, there's sweep the leg. There's t-shirts that say sweep the leg. Okay, wonderful. I go into Etsy and I see sweep the leg, sweep the leg, sweep the leg. Okay, this is looking good. Do not be fooled. If you see t-shirts with slogans, do the research first, okay? You can go to a site here called uspto.gov. It's the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And actually, I'm going to show you that right now. Okay, so I'm on uspto.gov/trademark, and that's the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Now you may be tempted to just type into this little search, Windows search here, but that's not really the search because this is a government website. It can sometimes be a bit difficult to navigate. What you want to do is search here. Now again, you might be in the United Kingdom, you might be in Canada, you might be in the Philippines, you could be anywhere in the world, so I'm not suggesting this is the only trademark database to use. I'm just saying this is one option, and obviously you would search, you'd use other options in your vicinity to search. So this is just an example. I'm going to click this search trademarks option right here, and I can search the trademark database. So I'm going to click this search our trademark database. Now from here I can do a basic word search. So I'm going to type in sweep the leg and then submit query. And oh my goodness, wouldn't you know it, sweep the leg is actually trademarked. Sweep the leg, you can see here down at the bottom, live dead indicator, it's live. So I was surprised when I saw that. And I was like, huh. Now, it says goods and services, and here's where things get a bit tricky. Now, again, I want to point out, I'm not a trademark lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Trademarks typically work for certain items. Think, for example, about like Apple computer, and like the Beatles had a store called like Apple because it was like Apple Music, and other people like eat apples. So you could have like apples that are for like fruit, and you can have apples that are computers, and you could have apples that are music. So you can trademark things for different reasons. They're not just like you trademark one word and that's it for all time. So the goods and services for Sweep the Leg is electronic cigarette liquid comprised of flavorings in liquid form used to fill electronic cigarette cartridges. So what I mean by that is vaping. So Sweep the Leg is trademarked by a company called Bonsai Vapors, and it's a live active trademark. So you cannot legally use the words Sweep the Leg for vaping because the trademark is already held by this company. Kind of interesting. Now there's no trademark, as far as I can tell, for t-shirts, bedspreads, bath mats, stickers, as far as I know. So that's one option, okay? The other option that I'm going to show you is a site called Justia, which I've used before. And Justia Trademarks is probably one of my favorites just because it's pretty easy to navigate. And I'm going to search up here for Sweep the Leg. Sweep the Leg. So trademarks.justia.com, and I can see here as well, Sweep the Leg electronic cigarette liquid owned. And if I click on it, it will show me, it says status 700 registered. This is an active trademark. And it says goods and services, electronic cigarette liquid. Huh. There's a trademark history, blah, 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 the whole thing. It says it was new application was entered on 2015 and it's still registered. It's a live trademark. However, it's a trademark for the goods and services listed therein, which is electronic cigarette liquid. In other words, vaping. So does that mean that you can create a t-shirt with the phrase sweep the leg? Probably. You know, I'm not going to say legally I'm guaranteeing it, but I certainly don't see anything here to prevent us. Would I personally create a sweep the leg t-shirt? Probably not. It's probably too risky. Why risk it? There's a lot of other opportunities, but you may want to. I don't know. It's up to you. So I really want to point out it's important for you to do the research before you just start slapping down sayings onto t-shirts. Another popular shirt is Sweep the Leg Johnny, but when I go into Wikipedia, there's actually a rock band that was around called Sweep the Leg Johnny. That was actually like an actual experimental rock band. So it's probably not worth it to explore this option because there's enough other ones. However, if you do the deep dive into the research and you go, hey, I cannot see a specific trademark that prevents me from pursuing this, then hey, go ahead. But that's another one. Sweep the Leg Johnny is a popular one. And we can see here merch by Amazon says Sweep the Leg t-shirt. There's lots on merch. There's lots on Redbubble, Teepublic, that sort of thing. So here's just an example where somebody's using the popular phrase, but they're not referencing Karate Kid exactly. They're not referencing Cobra Kai exactly. So again, there's lots of opportunity there. So here's some key points, all right? Don't use copyrighted and trademarked phrases, names, and pictures. So if you see like a picture of Johnny Lawrence chopping, karate chopping, don't use it. If you see the band Nirvana on a t-shirt, don't use that. All right, you want to just use phrases around things. Okay, so don't make it visually similar to a copyrighted brand. Now there's one exception here, and it's if you're doing parody. So you could make fun of something and say, well, I'm doing satire, but that's really sticky and it can be a really expensive proposition. I would recommend, unless you've got some amazing best-selling design or amazing best-selling idea, keep it simple. Take advantage of phrases, but don't make it visually the same. So don't use Seinfeld font, for example. Don't use Nirvana's font. Don't use Kiss's font. That's you're trying to confuse. That would be the legal argument, is you're trying to confuse the consumer and confuse it. Like if you took the NFL logo, National Football League, but instead of NFL, you put 3 other letters in there, that would be a trademark violation, because you're fooling a normal consumer would be fooled. So you don't want to do that. Don't make it visually similar. And if in doubt, okay, and this is the big one, if in doubt, don't pursue it. Okay, go after another opportunity. It's a huge world out there. There's millions and millions of TV shows and movies and songs and cultural references and cities and towns and family members, and there's so many different opportunities. Don't get hung up on one thing if it doesn't pan out. You might look up 10 opportunities, 8 of them are trademarked, but 2 of them aren't. And you go, well, there you go. There's your 2 niches. I've got so many niches in the hopper. I've literally got 60 niches. I could spend every day, all day working on this stuff, and I'll never be able to fill it all. So you should be in the same boat. Have a little notepad. Every time you see something witty, write it down. You should have hundreds of these ready to go so that you can fill your days creating opportunities for revenue growth. A big thing is to look and see if it's an inside joke. So if you see something that is, a phrase, but it's not necessarily indicative of the movie, ask yourself, if the person didn't know the trademarked property, would it make any sense? So for example, the phrase, no soup for you. All right, I say that phrase to you, no soup for you. Some of you are going to instantly go, huh, funny. But it's not funny if you've never seen the show Seinfeld, because if you've never seen the soup guy who's shouting no soup for you, it doesn't mean anything. So putting no soup for you on a shirt, let's pretend it's not trademarked. It probably is, but I don't know. But if you saw no soup for you on a shirt, it's an inside joke for most of us, because we've seen the show and we go, oh, funny. So that's the idea behind the inside joke. All right. The same thing if you see like that Nirvana shirt where it said, don't worry, never mind, that's a Nirvana reference. So if you're part of that generation, that's a very important phrase for people who are really big fans of Nirvana. So that's the inside. It's not necessarily a joke, but it's inside information. It's winky winky at each other as you walk by each other in the mall. You're like, I get it. Okay, and absolutely check the trademark databases. I've just shown you 2, Justia and then the United States government one, but there's many other ones. There's a Canada one, there's a United Kingdom one, there's lots in Europe, there's lots all around the world. So just remember, nothing is guaranteed. It's very common that you make a saying on a t-shirt and then years later it becomes trademarked. So it's like, oh my. So there's nothing guaranteed. I want to point that out there. This is a strategy. You could hit a home run. You could have some very popular designs, but it's not guaranteed. Like everything in life, the really good opportunities take work. They take sacrifice. They take energy. That's what this is all about. So I hope you guys found this helpful. As always, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, leave me a question. I'm always happy to read through those, and I very, very much appreciate your time. I hope you found this helpful, and and go forward, do some research, and opportunities await you. Thanks, guys.